The Terps will beat UVA on Saturday night.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day, and also publisher on InsideBlackandGold.net. Make sure you guys head over to InsideBlackandGold.net for all the latest Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first. I believe that the Terps on Saturday night will take down the UVA, the Virginia Cavaliers, on 8 o'clock on Saturday night. I feel confident that the Terps are going to rebound after that poor game against Michigan State, where it was a game that we never should have lost. We could have won that game in so many different ways. And it wasn't a game to me that Michigan State won. It was a game that Maryland lost. Credit to Michigan State for coming on the road and doing some really good things. But I think that losing to Michigan State in that type of battle actually is going to help us beat Virginia. One, now we know we can't mess around. This isn't like the last couple of years where we've just kind of been able to beat a lot of teams that we're supposed to beat. But now it's not always going to be like that. You have parts of your football team that aren't as perfect, I feel like, as the last couple of years, like the secondary, like the offensive line. And so I think that in the past years, we probably win that game against Michigan State. Talia probably finds a way to win that game. I'm not saying Billy Edwards, it wasn't his fault at all, but I'm saying in the past years, we've been able to win those types of games. And I think that losing to Michigan State's a real wake-up call, and I think it's absolutely going to help us against the Virginia Cavaliers. I can't see us making the same mistakes that we did against the Michigan State Spartans. I can't see our field goal kicker missing another kick that he should have made. I can't see Ty Felton dropping a ball that he should have caught. I can't see our secondary getting burnt as hard as they did. I just don't see it. I see a Virginia team that's good, that's solid. I don't see a team that's better than Maryland. I think Maryland's better than the Virginia Cavaliers. I do. I think we're better in a lot of different spots, and I think that it'll show on Saturday night at Virginia. It's not easy to go on the road, and we're not going to like Alabama or LSU or Death Valley or something like that. We're going to Virginia, probably a hard place to play for sure, but nothing insane. So I think that we're going to build off the momentum of the crowd. I think we're going to be ready to respond. I think Coach Loxley has made his point to those players that we can't mess around. There's nothing to mess around about here. We got to lock in, and if we don't, we're not going to win games. And I feel pretty good about a couple of different things. I feel good about Billy Edwards. I do think part of me feels like he's due for regression, but I haven't seen anything that I've been like, oh, he kind of just got lucky there. He's definitely going to have to work on that, or, oh, that happened, and he's not going to be able to do that next week against Virginia. Like, I haven't felt like that. I've seen him make big boy throws. I've seen him complete a really high percentage of his throws as well. I've seen him lead the offense, and I totally expect him to be able to do it again against a Virginia Cavaliers team that I think we're going to score against. I said yesterday, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I do. But I think that Maryland should be able to kind of score at will against the Virginia Cavaliers. I do. I think that Billy Edwards has shown the ability to lead the offense. And I also think we're going to run the ball much better than we did against Michigan State for a couple different reasons. Wake Forest had played Virginia the week before, and Wake Forest was able to run the ball for definitely a decent amount against the Virginia Cavaliers. They were definitely able to put up a decent run game against the Virginia Cavaliers. And so I think Maryland's run game has been awful so far. Or not awful, but it was awful against Michigan State, was fine against UConn. I think this week I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I just watched Wake Forest rush the ball for 141 yards against the Virginia Cavaliers. So I think Maryland's going to be able to have a more balanced attack where we're able to control the clock a little bit more than Virginia is. And I think that we're going to be able to run the ball more, but we're also going to be able to throw the ball. Wake Forest threw the ball for 403 yards. Virginia Cavaliers defense isn't good. So I think that when I'm looking at it, I do see a high-scoring game, but I also see a game where I think Maryland's offense really shows up, and I think that we're balanced. I think we're going to get Roman Hemby going because based off what I've seen from this Virginia defense, hasn't been good passing, stopping the pass, or stopping the run. It just hasn't been that good for them at all. Even look at this game against Richmond. Richmond, not a very good team. Their leading rusher had 7 carries for 76 yards, averaged 10.9 yards per carry. Like, Richmond was able to get some things going, and that's Richmond. They were able to rush the ball for 147 yards against Virginia, and that's while being down a lot of the game. And when you're down, you got to throw the ball a good amount. So Richmond was able to rush the ball for a decent amount. So I think that the Terps being able to rush the ball and being more balanced will allow the Maryland to win this game. I think that that's what we've preached all offseason is we don't want to be a team that just has to throw the football. We don't want to just have to throw the football all over the place. I think that the Terps will have a much more balanced attack. I think that we'll get Hemby. I think we're going to get Nolan Ray going. I really do believe that, and I think as soon as they start coming up, there's going to be some play action opportunities for guys like Ty Felton and Caden Prather and Octavian Smith and Dylan Wade. And so I do really believe that. I think that we're going to be able to run the football. I think we're going to be able to pass the ball because Virginia Cavaliers defense hasn't shown a lot, and it's been a real weak spot. I'm going to talk more about the defense, but I don't think defense is going to be as bad as it was last week. I don't. I think that they're going to improve. I think they're going to hit the film room, and they're going to get better in a lot of spots. And I think there's no way that they're as bad as they were last week. I think they're going to definitely get better and improve in a lot of different spots. And I have trust that Coach Locksley is going to get those guys right. And I definitely feel pretty good about that overall for Maryland football. But I think that when I think about the loss that we just took to Michigan State, going back and realizing we can't mess around. There's no shot we start the season 1 and 2 because if we do, we're probably not hitting the goals that we've wanted to all season. It's a must-win game. I talked about it, and I think that pressure that we put on ourselves, I think, is good. I think that when the pressure is the highest in some of these games, I think that's when you see some of the best Maryland football. And when the pressure is low and sometimes you think, oh, we should just walk around and win that game, that's when I've seen some bad games. Like I'm thinking last year Northwestern, this year Michigan State. We've seen some bad performances when the Terps think they can just show up and win. So I do think that the point has been made that the Terps will have to play well to win this game on Saturday night. But a night game, it's going to be a really cool atmosphere at Virginia Cavaliers, and I do like the Terps to win this game. I think that Billy Edwards is going to play very well, and I think that's really going to be the difference is the balance on offense. And I think Maryland's defense, I don't know if it's going to be really good on Saturday, but I think it's going to be better, and that's all we're going to ask for because I think that Michigan State's defense is actually much better than the Virginia Cavaliers defense. So I think that, and Maryland has some success against the Michigan State defense. So I feel good about the Maryland offense having success against the Michigan State defense. The Virginia Cavaliers defense overall. And I do think that the Terps will win. And I think that I'll give a score prediction at the end of the episode to make sure you listen through to hear about that. But I do feel good about Billy Edwards. I do feel good about the run game. The only really thing I'm like the offensive line. If the offensive line plays decent, I think we win by multiple touchdowns. If they play how I expect them to play, which is below decent, then it'll probably be a pretty close game. But if you give Billy Edwards time, nobody can guard Ty Felton right now. He's different right now. And so I think that I don't see a guy on the Virginia team that can cover Ty. So I feel pretty good about Ty Felton having a big day as well, just based off what Wake Forest was able to do, pass for over 400 yards. Like they haven't been great on defense at all. Will the Terps defense step up? We need them to bad. I'll tell you about that after this ad from eBay Motors and LinkedIn Jobs. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships, and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, and more. Whether into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. only available to U.S. customers. These days, new potential hires can feel like high-stakes wagers for your small business. You want to be 100% certain they have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the people for your team faster and for free. A lot of people need jobs right now, and if you want to find someone amazing for your company, LinkedIn Jobs helps find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So Maryland's defense on last Saturday against Michigan State was absolutely embarrassing, but I do think the Terps defense will play at least somewhat better against the Virginia Cavaliers. Am I concerned? Yes. Do I think that Virginia is going to score points? Yes. But I do think the Terps will play a little bit better. Last week against Michigan State, it was just terrible. Letting Aiden Childs, a guy that I'm not sold on Aiden Childs, the quarterback from Michigan State. I didn't really know much about his game going into this Maryland game, besides the fact that I knew he struggled against FAU. But after watching some of the throws he made, like, that guy wasn't that accurate. Like, he made some good throws for sure, and he's really talented, but he's definitely not a finished product. So to watch him go 24 of 39 against our defense and throw for 363 yards and 3 touchdowns, that is not going to get it. Because I think that Anthony Colandrea, the quarterback for Virginia, I believe is a really talented thrower of the football. Like, that guy can sling it around, and he's had a pretty good start to the season. He's similar to Aiden Childs in a way that he can turn it over a little bit if you're not careful. He can give some things away. But I do think that when I look at Virginia, I think, okay, it's not the same as what we face against Michigan State, but it's a similar type of thing where they might be able to try and throw the ball all over the place against us. And we can't let a receiver, Nick Marsh, like the Michigan State receiver, Nick Marsh, have 8 receptions for 194 yards. There's no way. And the key to our defense improving is the secondary. I thought the defensive line was decent on Saturday against Michigan State. I think they did a pretty solid job. But heading into this Virginia game, the secondary just has to be better. And I think they will, because I don't think there's any way they can be as bad as they were last week, to be honest. So I think it's the type of situation where it's like you kind of hit rock bottom against Aiden Childs of Michigan State. I think the only way is to go up. And I don't know how Maryland's going to kind of go about it, because none of those guys looked great. Like, sure, Jalen Husky had an interception, but that was a horrible thrown ball by Aiden Childs. Sure, Glendon Miller had a couple of picks, but none of those were like him making like a huge play. It was horrible balls by Aiden Childs or miscommunications, whatever they may be. It wasn't the Terps doing something special. And so I'm looking at this game against the Virginia Cavaliers, and I'm saying to myself, okay, I don't think that the Maryland secondary can be as bad as it was last week. I don't know how Coach Loxley is going to approach it. I don't know if he's going to play these young guys like Braden Lee, like Kevin Humes. I don't know what he's going to do, if he's going to stick with Perry and Husky outside. I don't know. But I think, to me, like, find your 2 best corners and play them the whole game on the outside. I hate this mess around stuff where we're trying to play the young guys while trying to play the older guys. Like, to me, like, a lot of top programs don't do that. Like, especially in a game against, like, this is my problem with a lot of it. In a game against Michigan State, it's like, what are we doing? Like, it's a back and forth game. We don't know who our starters are right now. We're playing like sometimes Braden Lee's out there, sometimes the freshman Braden Lee or Kevin Humes are out there, and it's like sometimes Perry's out there, Lionel is out there, sometimes Husky's out there. Like, I don't like that. It's an absolute dogfight against Michigan State. Why don't we have our 2 starting corners play? Who we should have 2 guys that give us the best chance at winning. And I think that Coach Loxley kind of that was kind of, or whoever decides that rotation, Coach Loxley, Coach Williams, or defense corner, whoever it is. But I don't think you can just play everybody just because you want to see different guys. Like, we're not good enough. We're not that type of team. And so I hope we don't do that. But I do see the defense being a lot better. I do think Virginia's going to score. I do, just because I haven't seen anything to be like, oh, like, they're going to have trouble scoring. Like, I do think that they're going to score, but I do think Maryland's going to score a lot too. But I do think the secondary is going to be a little bit better. I think you gotta not let these corners stay on island. It's got to be a lot of safety help, whether it's Dante, Glendon, whoever's in there into safety play. They gotta help over the top, because what happened last week can't happen. And we see these Virginia receivers cut up last week against Wake Forest. Like, they got some guys on the outside, and so that's why I'm concerned about it. But I think that's probably low-key a bless. I think it's a blessing a little bit, because when I think about it, I'm like, they're not going to take these guys lightly. I think Michigan State receiver room that surprised the Terps. Virginia receiver room, they just went off against Wake Forest. Like, that's all Coach Locks is going to, and the DB coach is going to preach to our secondary and our corners, that this receiver core is really good. And I think the Maryland corners are going to want to shut up everyone after having a really bad performance last week against Michigan State. And I do think that they're going to be better. And I think the defensive line is going to be pretty good. I think I don't have to worry about the safety duo. I think the linebacker room is going to be fine. But I'm really concerned about Anthony Colandrea just dotting us up, because he is a talented thrower of the football. He does have a really talented arm, and he's got talented receivers. I think that a lot of it's going to come down to, can our corners hold up, or can our defensive line put pressure so that the corners don't have to hold up. So I think that you got to help each other out there. But I do think that most of the reason I say the defense is going to be better is because I don't think it could be much worse than it was last week. And especially because we consider this a strength going into the season. But here's how you can see how one position group, if it's not up to par with the rest of the defense in the game of football, in a team sport, it can really make everything look a lot worse than it actually is. Because I have trust in the rest of the position groups. That corner room, I don't. But I do think they'll be better. I do think they're going to be in the film room. I do think they're going to do some things differently. And if they don't, shame on them, because that's not going to work against this Virginia team. I honestly think Virginia's got better receivers, and I think Anthony Colandrea is probably more natural thrower of the football. I'd say Aiden Childs might be more talented, maybe, but that Colandrea guy can just spin it around. So I'm definitely concerned about the corners and them holding up, but I do think that Maryland's defense will be improved, because a lot of it is I don't think they can be much worse. Will the Terps cover the spread? I'll talk about that and the over and under of the game and what I think about it after this ad from Factor. Warmer, sunnier days are now on their way, and Factor's got your back for them. Get ready to soak up the sun with our easy, no-fuss meals that take just minutes to prepare. With options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and our chef-crafted meals help you hit your wellness goals before summer hits. They're fresh, never frozen, and dietitian-proof, so you can enjoy nutritious and delicious meals even on your busiest days. Today's a perfect day to start a healthy routine, so why wait? Dive in now. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this May with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com. So the spread, I do think the Terps cover the spread this weekend. It's an interesting number. It's not very high. Vegas is predicting a close game at 2.5 points. So this game could come down potentially some more. I wouldn't be surprised if money comes in on the Virginia side, especially them being at home, especially because of how the Terps have looked. I can definitely see that happening. The spread coming down to maybe just a pick 'em, or it could come down as much as Virginia being favored. But I think that if you're going to take this game, probably wait until closer to kickoff. I don't see this going up. I can only see this going down if you're planning on taking the Maryland Terrapins. If you're taking the Virginia Cavaliers, I'd probably snag. I do think the Terps cover, but to be completely honest, I'm not super confident about it. Last week I said Michigan State covers, hands down. I didn't get the spread. I was like, Michigan State's covering 9.5. I just didn't get it. I think that Vegas overrated the Terps a little bit, and I'm sorry to be completely honest. It was true. I said Michigan State's going to cover 9.5, and this week my confidence was probably a 10 at that. This week the spread 2.5. I'm going to say the Terps covered, but I don't feel great about it. I don't think that I feel awesome about it. I think it's about a 5 on a 10-point scale. The confidence I feel about the Terps covering 2.5. But I do think that there's a couple different reasons why. I do think that we'll get Billy Edwards' legs more involved. I think Billy Edwards' legs weren't involved quite enough against Michigan State. Like, sure, we used them a little bit, but use them a lot. Use them a lot. Especially against this type of game where you got to win. I think that's when you bring out the Billy Edwards legs, because we know what he can do with those legs. We know he's a special type of athlete. We know that he's got some of that Josh Allen, Cam Newton, like he's 6'3", big body and can move. He's obviously not those guys, but he's got some of the tad bit of that athleticism. So I do think that when I'm thinking about Billy Edwards, I'm like, get that guy running. And I think that's going to be a huge indicator in the game. And I think that's a big reason why I think the Terps cover, because I think that Virginia isn't great on defense. And I think they're going to be worried about us handing the ball off. They're going to be worried about us throwing down the field to Ty Felton. That Billy Edwards' legs might be forgotten because they haven't been as big as I thought they would be. I didn't think we were going to have to use them against UConn, but we did a little bit. But against Michigan State, I expected to be a little bit more. But going into this Virginia game, I'm sure they're going to have some design stuff for Billy Edwards, which I think is important to do. And I think that that's going to help us cover the spread. And then also what I said about the defense earlier. Defense can't be as bad as it was on Saturday against Michigan State. I think that they'll be better, and I think that they'll be improved, and I think they'll put us in a spot to they'll definitely bend, but I don't think they'll break. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. I think Colandrea is going to have some yardage maybe, and I'm okay with giving up some yards. I think that when you're looking at a Maryland corner room and a Maryland defense, it's pretty strong everywhere except for that corner room. But when you don't have good corners, it's really hard to play defense sometimes. And sometimes you just got to give up stuff. You got to play a lot of soft stuff, which sometimes I hate watching it, but sometimes that's what it is. And force Colandrea to make the throw after throw after throw after throw. And if he does that all game, doesn't turn over the ball, and can just make accurate throw after accurate throw, then you tip your cap. But you can't give up these big bombs that you're giving up to Michigan State. You can't give up these big plays down the field. That cannot happen at all. And now in terms of the total is sitting at 57.5. I do think the game goes over. I think both teams score maybe more than 30 points. The Maryland defense was just awful against Michigan State. So it's hard for me to say that this game doesn't go over, because I think Virginia's defense was awful against Wake Forest. So I think that when I'm looking at it, I see a shootout and I see both teams going over the total. But that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.